Hey, folks, thanks for joining me for today's podcast. It is a sweltering summer as we're all slogging through it. I think we'll be just fine, won't we? I certainly hope so. I knew it was going to be a scorcher, and I bring this up with every guest in the summertime. It just seems to get worse and worse and worse, but we'll survive. But today I have a great guest on. I have never had anybody from St. Louis, Missouri on, and it's really a treat to talk with Beth Bombara. She has got a new album out today. We are coinciding this episode with the release of her new album called It All Goes Up. It is a fantastic release. She has worked so hard on this. She has been a solo artist now since really the mid 2000s, I would believe. Yeah, mid 2000s. New album, It All Goes Up. It is on Black Mesa Records. And it's just she's a great artist in the fact that she is a cross between Amy Mann and Jewel. And we have a great talk, and I hope you really enjoy this.
Good morning, Bob.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. And as always, I always ask, where are you from at the moment? Are you in the St. Louis area?
I'm in St. Louis. Yeah, yeah. Lucky that I'm at home for a little bit before we get on the road.
Yeah, you do quite a
So
bit of traveling, don't you?
I try to as much as I can, and it's gotten a little more complicated. But yeah,
Mainly in the Midwest, is that where you're usually performing?
yeah. Generally speaking, I like to stick sort of 6 hours from home. But with the event of like a new record, then we'll be getting a little further out there. So,
So when you're traveling, do you bring a bunch of copies of the CD if you have any vinyl too and distribute those at the shows?
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Always fun. Always a lot of lugging, and I'm sure. Do you have like a van?
Yeah, we have a 15 passenger van, so it's a beast, but that's kind of what you need. So,
Who travels with you? It's just now your husband is Kit, the
hmm
the very well known Kit Hammond. Is that the last name? How it's spelled?
yeah, Hamon.
Uh
Yep.
huh.
So he plays bass with me. He usually drives the van. He likes driving a lot. Um, and then we have a drummer that will come out with us. His name is Jeremy Reedy, and then a lead guitar player. His name is Sam Golden, and Sam also plays the fiddle. So he's sort of a
Nice.
dual purpose band member. It's wonderful.
Yeah, you have a little bit of country and western influence. We'll get into it. Your new album coming out. Is this happening on your birthday?
It is.
Was that on
Yeah.
purpose? Did you want to
Yeah.
coincide?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. I thought that would be fun for me. So, yeah.
Usually, an artist, yeah, if it's a coincidence, it's like it's coming very close to it. It's like I might as well do it. It's my gift, you know. It's like we worked this hard on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long did it take to put this project together?
Um, well, when I think about it, like these songs had been floating around in my head for quite some time, and it just took like a dedicated effort to um make some just basic acoustic demos and then send them to the band, get together with the band and try to play through them and like me communicating my vision for them with the band and us sort of working it out together and then going into the studio. That was probably a good year, maybe a year and a half
Yeah.
process. Um, yeah, so it always takes longer than I think it will, but that's just the nature of creating
Yes, yes.
from
And
start to finish. Yeah.
for sure. When you're in now, where do you record this? Is it your own home studio or a professional one in town?
So we went to a studio in town called Midtown Sound, and we did all of the basic tracking there. So the drums, the rhythm guitar, and the bass guitar. Uh, And in most cases, we were able to take the whole band and set everybody up and track those parts live together. And then from there, I did my final vocals. I went back to that studio to do the vocals. But then, like other auxiliary percussion, like tambourine, some background vocals, the strings, we all did sort of at our respective home studios.
And the pieces parts come together. Do you have a special mixing engineer, or is that like Kit's a person of all trades?
Kit does do a lot of mixing, and he's mixed stuff for me before, but I think he prefers, if he's playing in a project, he doesn't he'd prefer to have somebody else's ears on it to mix. So we actually had the recording engineer also mixed it, and then we sent it to a different engineer for mastering.
And Kit, you met on Martha's Vineyard several years ago. You've been together now, actually married since what, '09?
Yeah, so it's been a while, but yeah, we met. We were both in college, and we were doing sort of like a off-campus study program for a semester. And we both were going to different schools, and so we did this program at the same time. It just so happened, and then it was a music program. So what happened is they assigned other students to work with in the studio, and so he and I got assigned to work in the studio together, and that's how we met. So
Oh, it's always when you least expect it. It's like, yeah, this is right
yeah.
in front of me right now. And what a great gift, though, to have you collaborate and somebody who could really help. How is it? I was watching, who was it? There was an HBO documentary where the husband and wife were together, Jason Isbell. And
Oh, I still need to watch that. I've been meaning to watch that.
yeah, and it really did. It really captured all that about how, wife is uber talented, just like him. And it's like these competing
Yeah.
egos and all this. It's very interesting. I highly recommend it on HBO, I believe it's where it's been streaming,
Cool.
or on the new Max format.
Ah, I'll have to give that a watch. Yeah, I've been meaning to.
Yeah, absolutely. So your album, where does the title come from? It all goes up.
So the title comes from a lyric line in one of the songs. The song is Electricity is the name of the song. And the lyric line, just that snippet of line,
Comes out of
is
there.
when it all goes up. So I sort of thought that that would be an interesting title for a lot of reasons, but mostly I like putting things out there that you can sort of take whatever meaning you want from it. What does that mean to you when you first hear it? And so for me, it sort of encapsulates this underlying idea of the whole record, of sort of the time and headspace I was in, of just sort of looking at the past few years and feeling like, man, that was really hard. And I questioned a lot of things for myself, and like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And life sucks, or whatever. And just looking forward, looking ahead and saying, you know what, it's okay, because I think we can only go up from here.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. When you get to this point in life, there's a lot of introspection, and you come up with that and say, "Wow, I've got the other half of the life to go now. Where do I go from here?" So yeah, Electricity is a really great track. It's kind of starts like this haunting, slow, and then it lifts up. I like those tempo changes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
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 that's a fun one that I like. I mean, obviously I like every song on the record, but
yeah. You don't have a
everyone,
favorite? Yeah,
it's hard. It's
yeah.
if you were to ask me like what's my favorite song to play live, I could tell you. But just trying to pick a favorite, I can't pick favorites.
Yeah, they're all your kids. Yeah, that's I
Yeah.
would say that with every artist. It's like, you marry it, it's your kids when you're putting the whole project together. So yeah, I'm sure it all comes from there. A lot of great tracks here though. Moment
Thank
is
you.
just a
Mm.
wonderful, wonderful track. As far as like ordering goes, do you really like overthink that when you're putting the final track listing together?
Yeah, my struggle with this record in sequencing it was sort of the songs are pretty different. There's a varied palette of sounds and genres, and so I was really trying to come at it and say, okay, how do I take these songs that feel very different in some ways, um, and make them sort of a cohesive thing and flow well from one to the other. So I was pretty intentional about how I put that together, because I had questions like, can I put all of these songs on one record? And I really wanted to. And I think because I wrote them all in a specific time period, they all sort of hang together for me in that way. So
Yeah, when artists are putting it together and they sit down with producers, they really, really listen. And people don't really realize that there's so much thought goes into the sequencing of an album.
mhm,
They listen to it, listen to it. Oh, does this go here? Or listen to the tail ends of certain songs going into others. And there's just a lot of
mhm.
thought that's going into that. So yeah, it's really a
Yeah,
lot.
it was a fine line for me to not overthink it, to be very intentional about it, but not to overthink it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because you could spend. I don't know, Steely Dan is one of those bands that just like would go on forever. They're just crazy. Just really talk about overthinking and trying to be perfectionists. But you have a
Hmm.
lot of inspirations. Definitely, people have compared you with Amy Mann, who's just incredible artist.
She's amazing. Yeah, yeah, and the span of her career is wonderful.
Yeah, I saw her
But
with Till Tuesday. This goes back nearly 40 years ago. It was intriguing seeing her. She opened up for Hall and Oates when I saw them,
oh
and
wow.
yeah, yeah, it was funny. It's just the never saw anything like that before. So yeah, it's a total original.
Yeah, no, she's amazing. People often throw out comparisons, and yeah, she's an inspiration for sure. I feel like artists like Nico Case, she's super inspiring to me. Um, I really love Wilco's music and what Jeff Tweedy's doing.
Yeah,
He's just always creating. And so for me that's an inspiring thing. But yeah, just all my influences are all over the place.
yeah, and that's how artists are. They all get their influences somewhat derived from one another. Take nuggets here and there, and you form your own, and you get your own personality going. So growing up, you were up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Is that where you were originally from?
Yeah, yeah. I was born in Grand Rapids and lived in the area um, up until I was 21, I think, and then I sort of moved away for good. It still feels like home to me, but now I've been in St. Louis almost for long enough that St. Louis feels like home too. So,
Yeah, when you've been gone from your hometown for a certain amount of time. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been in Atlanta, Georgia for more than 3 decades.
oh
So like,
wow, yeah,
yeah. And if I got back to, I mean, there's so many things that you notice when you've been out of it, and it gives you a real fresh perspective than when you grew up.
definitely, yeah. Like
Really.
I didn't some things I didn't realize about my hometown until I moved away, and I was like, oh well, not everybody does it that way. Okay, hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any inspiration lyric wise that come from your childhood? That you say, well, no, it's really hitting me, and I have a song here based on those experiences.
Oh, like childhood
Yeah,
experiences.
yeah.
I would say sometimes the song Curious and Free on the new record, I was really thinking back about my time uh being a teenager in Grand Rapids and like going around and like I started my first band when I was 16 and it we
It's
weren't good. We were terrible. But
was that the punk band? Is that
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, but just thinking about how freeing that was, like it just we could go and we could just make noise and it was fun and it was freeing and we got to even get in a little conversion van and drive around the state and like and then we played some shows across state lines, and it was like, this is a magical freeing experience. So like I was sort of thinking back to that time and like, man, if things thinking about how good that felt and trying to recapture that feeling of freedom and just newness and exploration.
Yeah, isn't that great? Like kids now, and we're now of older generations, like they're not getting the kind of experiences we had growing up, like being able to create and do things on your own totally, and not having, electronics do it all for you. Now it's scary with AI. It's like, oh no, it's like it's taking humanity out of music, and it's so I'm glad that we, at least these previous generations, had the chance to create on our own.
Yeah, sometimes fantasize about like, oh, I wish I grew up in the 60s or the 70s and how cool would that be? And but like where we are now, I look back and I was like, man, I think I really had an idyllic childhood growing up without screens essentially and no social media and like just that I feel lucky for that.
Yeah, yeah. Curious and Free is a great organic, very acoustic, all acoustic, I suppose
Hmm.
you would say. It's really wonderful to hear something just totally stripped down. It's very like real. I like those moments in the record.
Mm,
You have all that instrumentation, then you have that. So that's a really nice, and where you place that again in the album really works well with the whole project. So
thank
everybody go
you.
out and get this album. So how would we be able to get this album? It's for digital download off your website.
Yeah, it'll be on all streaming services. So if that's how you listen to music, I like to tell people just listen to it however you normally listen. If you are on Spotify, that's great. If you're on Apple, that's great. You can download it and buy it through iTunes. You can just stream it. You can get a physical vinyl record through my website, or you can pre-order it right now on Black Mesa Records website. So I think it's just blackmesarecords.com. So yeah, there's a lot of options for physical, digital, streaming, all of that.
Hmm.
But bethbombara.com, you should be able to find all of that there.
Yeah, nice website. And the cover for this new project, what's the story behind that? Or the artist who created that? That's really nice.
Ah,
Yeah.
so that is another contribution by my husband Kit. He the past couple years has gotten more into graphic design,
Oh,
and he just has, I've always thought he's been good at that and has a good eye for things. Excuse me.
yeah, yeah. That's
And
fantastic.
so we talked about some ideas, and we sort of ended up with this sort of like collage art sort of thing based on a picture of me while we were on vacation in Hawaii. So you see like that dark, it's actually like lava rock that I was actually standing on. And then he built the collage sort of around that.
Neat. He does a lot. Very artistic, definitely. Somebody who could do the bass, graphic arts. Gosh, what doesn't he do? Well, he does all the plumbing too, as well.
He could, yeah. But no, he can play drums as well.
Wow.
But on an older record came out in 2017, I believe. It's called Map in No Direction, but he's playing the drums on that whole record. So he's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Yeah, you have quite a catalog too. If you go through the website, in the back catalog, you have EPs as
Mm.
well, Abandoned Ship, and you're one of these first artists who got into crowdfunding and Kickstarter.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was an experience, like sort of when I was putting out my first recordings, I was sort of on the forefront of the whole Kickstarter thing. I didn't know anybody in St. Louis who was doing it. I thought, I'm always sort of looking for like what's the new thing that people are trying, and I want to try it. So but that opened up a whole new world for me of sort of like how fans can come alongside artists and just sort of help them without a record label.
Yeah, yeah. And so that crowdfunding helped get that album in 2010 out. That's another incredible release. Met with a lot of great reviews. Wish I Were You. That's
Thanks.
again, where does that is down? Is that title lifted from a lyric too, or is that
It
just
is. Yeah, it's
yeah,
lifted
yeah,
from a lyric. Yep. Yep.
yeah, yeah? That's just fantastic. And then you've completely followed that up, and you keep creating and going back into the studio. You feel like you're kind of on this treadmill, like studio touring, and obviously you love
It,
it.
yeah, in some ways it sort of does feel like that, but I've been making sure like I take time for myself and just don't feel, sometimes it can feel pressure to stay on that treadmill, but I think it's if you do that, that's when you run into burnout. And I think I was really feeling super burnt out in early 2020, and I was ready to sort of like say, you know what, maybe I don't know if this music thing's working out for me. And I just was having a lot of doubts. And then the pandemic hit, and it just gave me this time to really think about that and to take this pressure off of myself because I couldn't get in the van and tour. And and I know a lot of people had a similar experience, but yeah, I think for me, this cycle of, I like to be in creative mode for a while and then make the record, and then I switch over into like getting the word out mode, promotional mode. So yeah, that's sort of, I love it though. I love that cycle.
Yeah, it's good. It's good for you. I mean, I could feel like if you've been away from it for too long, you're like probably thinking, "Oh my gosh, the audience can move on and forget you," but it's always
Mhm.
there. But yeah, I'm sure you probably can always feel those pressures as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a balance to try to figure out how to navigate those spaces.
Yeah. And also a lot of great tracks on the new album. Everything I Wanted, that was another standout to me. Kind of reminded me of this Colby Calais vibe. Uh,
Oh yeah, cool.
yeah, I met her once too. It just like and a song that was very, kind of had that vibe came out around that time, but it's very rhythmic and just
Mm.
what's the inspiration behind that one?
What's that?
What's the inspiration behind
Oh, the
Everything I Wanted?
inspiration.
Yeah.
um, well, sort of the inspiration started from like these conversations I realized that I kept having with friends and family, and about sort of like what we're pursuing in life, and what we're doing for jobs, what we're doing to sustain ourselves and make a living, and how we get caught in this cycle of chasing chasing things like, okay, I think I need a big fancy TV to be happy, or
Mm,
that's a silly
yeah.
analogy, but like I need all of these things. If I get this thing, then it will make me happy, or it will solve a problem and I'll be happier and my life will be easier. But so we just kept having these conversations about like, oh well, like what do you think you really need to be happy? Why are we in this cycle of chasing these things, and like, you know whether that be material possessions or money or anything, and just uh, that idea of realizing that happiness, contentment can come just from inside of you and not from the outside world.
Yeah, and so hard these days. We're so into
Ugh,
material items. Got to
it's
have the
so
latest gadget.
hard. Yeah. Anyway, so
So
that's sort
true.
of what I was thinking about and where that song sort of came from.
Yeah, you just got to keep it honest. Like, there's so much more to life. Just look around you. Just being out in nature, which we don't get to do as much
Oh
anymore.
my gosh, yeah. I'm a huge nature lover. I feel like anytime I can get outside and get away and go hiking or biking, I love that. It's just so energizing.
Do you have a lot of opportunity like that in the St. Louis area? You have good trail systems or places to hike?
Actually, yeah, within like, I would say you can drive 25, 30 minutes and you can get to some pretty nice little hiking spots. And there's some great parks. And you can drive an hour and a half and you can be in, or something like that. You can be in some really great, what is it? The Mark Twain National Forest
Oh, neat.
is a pretty relatively easy drive to get to, and that's yeah. So there's great stuff accessible.
Yeah. And you get to do that during the pandemic, which you needed to do to get outside.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
totally.
I actually I went on the plane twice to visit my daughter who was then in Boston, and it was great because there was like nobody on the plane. It's
Yeah.
just like Logan Airport was like totally abandoned. I was like a total ghost
Wow.
town. I was like, this is great. I really haven't traveled much since things have been somewhat normal now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so traveling around the Midwest must be just really just exciting. You probably see all kinds of back roads. Do you stop in places that are more off the beaten path, like your Route 66 kind of places?
Oh yeah, we try to make time for little random stops to explore little things. And like there's this cheese shop that we discovered sort of in the middle of like farmland in Iowa. And so anytime now we're like sort of going through there, we're like, oh, we got to stop at that little cheese shop. And they specifically only do Gouda cheeses, but they
Oh,
do like tons of different like ways. So it's super fun to find those little spots. Um, but I do love the Southwest, and I have some friends that live down there that we try to go visit, like at least once a year, and that's just great. So anytime I can travel and then like maybe play a few shows, it's great to get outside of the Midwest too. But I guess I was going to say that the song Moment, we just released a music video for,
oh, nice.
which is basically like footage of me and Kit traveling around the Southwest.
Yeah, he's in some other videos like Mountain Sun. That's
Yeah.
was shot in front of this like abandoned place. I saw that. I was like, this is so artsy, all black and white. And what's the meaning behind like being in front of, is there anything, or is just like the
No,
video?
well, the story behind that, it wasn't that I was like, oh, I gotta find this building that's like uh dilapidated, and that's what I really want. Literally, that was the house across the street from us that
Uh,
burned down. And uh so it was just this sort of like, oh, okay, well, let's just go across the street to the house and make a video.
yeah, do that when nobody's looking. Get past the
Yeah.
fire,
No,
the
I was
fire
like,
truck.
before this house falls down, we should make a video in front of it. Or it was in the back of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for the construction people come in and tear the whole thing down. Yeah, it's kind of
Hmm.
it has it's very interesting. What a great concept. What's the symbolism behind the tiny piano?
Oh, I think that was fun. Like, um, the the instrumentation on the song is me playing piano, and then I was like, well, I want to make it like, what's a portable piano I can actually like get behind here? And I love toy pianos. They're just so fun, and the sound is just, yeah. So I just thought it'd be fun.
Yeah, and so you were speaking as, being little with pianos and everything. So you basically taught yourself. I mean, you got the jump start from your parents, obviously, but you basically took it from there and well, you learned guitar basically on your own. And
Yeah.
how does it, I mean, obviously, I think it's easier when you're younger to be able to
Oh,
teach yourself.
totally. It's just, I think music is something I just always gravitated towards and was curious about. And so like my mom had she sort of dabbled in guitar when she was younger, and so she had a guitar laying around the house, and I didn't see her play it very much. So I just sort of was like, "Hey, mom, can I steal this guitar?" sort of. So I sort of like adapted it, and she had like the what was it? Like the Mel Bay book of chords, like that I started going through and just teaching myself how to play chords and listening to the radio and trying to play some of those songs, like that would have been in the mid 90s.
Way back in the mid
So,
90s. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so going way back to that, going back into the mid 90s, what did you remember hearing first? And what kind of guitar were you? Did you get better guitars as you were going along?
Yeah, I mean, I probably didn't ever really have a super nice guitar until like more recently, but
You gotta
um
work for it.
yeah, oh, sorry, what was it? What?
Finally got a decent guitar,
We
like a guild guitar or something. Like I don't want to get too like
Oh yeah.
inside baseball with instrumentation, but yeah, it's
No,
it's
so I
it's always
think
interesting.
yeah, I think my mom had this she had it was a Squire a Fender Squire like Stratocaster copy. And so and then she also had a Yamaha acoustic guitar. And so I sort of gravitated towards playing the electric guitar because it's easier to first learn that. It doesn't hurt your fingers as much when you're trying to build up those guitar calluses. Um, but yeah, so and then for me, she also had like a tiny little amp. And once I figured out like, oh, if I crank this amp, then it gets really like distorted. Like this is cool. And so then I'm in my bedroom like cranking the amp and like push and play on my Clash cassette tape. And just like in this world,
We're doing
like
that. Yeah.
this is fun. So
We're not really so much dating ourselves here, but yeah, I remember that, just like having the cassette recorder, like you physically had to do something. It was just so
yeah.
neat. I started out in film as a kid, and there was just something about that where you were limited to 3 minutes per cartridge. And
Oh
then
yeah.
you had to send that off to get developed. You were like so excited when you come back home and
Hmm.
play and put it through the projector. I'm like, oh, there's just magic about it. Now the kids these days, it's all instantaneous, which now everybody could do it. Back then, not everybody was doing these things and these disciplines.
Yeah, yeah. It's just much more of a process. And so like I came along and CDs were pretty much how people were listening to music. But you go to the record store and you could get a tape for cheap. And I remember I had in my bedroom, I just had a little dual cassette uh, deck boombox, and I would take that and like when I started sort of making up songs to remember them, I would just pop in a cassette and I would hit the record button and it would just use the microphone, external microphone on the boombox. So I could like remember what I had just like this riff that I had just come up with or something. And so now it's like fast forward and I have my phone with me all the
Yeah.
time and I can just pull it out and take a voice memo. So
It's great. Does it hit you like you're on the road? Oh, I got this great melody here. Bam, I got to pull over. I got to record this.
sometimes it does.
Yeah,
Sometimes it does. Yeah. Yeah.
it can
I
really
feel
hit
like
you.
being in motion, sort of something about that makes me like think of things. So like if I'm driving or if I'm walking or riding a bike, like any sort of motion really like is a good way for me to come up with ideas.
Yeah, yeah. And you have a little bit country and western influences. I was mentioning it's just where does that come from? Did you get into some country music?
Yeah, so I never really delved into country music until a little bit later on. I think until after I moved to St. Louis. There is a very rich folk scene in St. Louis, and like sort of like I met people who were sort of in folk and country bands, and that was sort of my first real like playing with people who played the banjo. I'd never I'd never been around that before until I moved to St. Louis. And part of that is like my musical experience in Michigan growing up there was more like in the rock scene. That's sort
Right.
of the scene I was living in. And so like when I moved to St. Louis, I started listening to some Gillian Welch and uh, leaning into more of that folk roots country tradition.
Yeah, not too far from Branson. I guess there is that
Yeah.
country and western influence there, which you wouldn't associate with St. Louis. So that's
No,
just
but that whole sort of Ozark,
yeah.
traditional scene for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's very prominent in the track "Get On." A few other tracks too, like that. Who just
mm.
you could hear that. Yeah, I love that slide. That slide is so really cool,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think the
I
80s were into
love
that. Yeah,
I love steel guitar. I will always have a soft spot for it. So.
yeah, yeah. So many good tracks. I really, really recommend this new release coming out on your birthday. That's that's just wonderful. I just just very heartwarming to hear that. And just best wishes. So where
Thanks,
can we see
Bob.
you? You'll be playing live. We're into the summer now, going into fall. A lot of Midwest
hmm
dates.
Yeah, a lot of Midwest states, Chicago. We'll be hitting Kansas City, like in the a little bit further into the fall, going down to Nashville, playing in Michigan, around Grand Rapids, around Montague, uh, playing a festival in northern Wisconsin in Appleton. So, sort of, yeah, that's in the next little while. That's where I'll be.
That was Appleton, some actors from there. I think Willem Dafoe, if I'm not mistaken. But Nashville should be
Hmm.
really fun. Nashville should really like this music. This is just perfect for that.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll get to go to Nashville actually twice in 2 months. So I'll be doing a show there, and then in at the end of August. But then I'll be going back to play at the Americana Fest,
Fun.
which that is a wonderful little conference festival. So if anyone's looking for a fun week of music, that is a great thing to go to because you get like a wristband and then you can go to all the shows that happen all week, or it's like four days of shows. You can go see them all, and there's too many to see, and it's hard to like make your schedule. It's like a little festival. So yeah, highly recommend that.
Yeah, great. Well, now what kind of venues? How many seats are you usually averaging for all these shows?
Oh, it varies
Varies.
greatly.
Yeah.
But I would say like anywhere from like 100 to 400 seats. So not big, but I sort of those are the venues that I like seeing shows in, because you can get they're a little intimate, and you feel like you can be up close and personal with the band, and so that's I really like playing venues of that like small to mid size.
Great. Oh, I hope to see you in Atlanta one of these days. We have a great venue. I always say it on almost every episode here. It's called Eddie's Attic.
Oh,
And
I wanted to get to Eddie's so bad. Uh, Maybe, yeah, I'll have to talk to you about that. Yeah,
please. Oh, it'd be great.
do it.
I love this
hmm
music. Anyhow, so well, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Bob.
Take care and best wishes with the new release. It all goes up, available wherever you get your music.
Thanks.
Take care. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye. And if you already don't know, we already spoke that it is Beth's birthday today, August 4th. So go out and get the new release. It is fantastic. I totally recommend that. Go back to her website that I think we mentioned in this episode. I can't remember. But yeah, check it out. It is fantastic. You will want to order this or listen to it on Spotify or wherever you get your music.